Good morning, everybody, or boa tarde in Brazil. um, Welcome to the 2021 Symposium of the Department of International and Area Studies at the David L. Boren College of International Studies in the University of Oklahoma, which this year is themed after the environment, human rights, and democracy in Bolsonaro's Brazil. My name is Fabio de Saia Silva. I'm an assistant professor at the department and one of the directors of the OU Center for Brazil Studies. And just so everybody knows, in this opening ceremony, as well as in the keynote speeches, we'll be offering Portuguese to English or English to Portuguese interpretation. So there should be a button at the bottom of your screen where you can select the language in which you may need assistance. Então, para que todo mundo possa saber, a gente está oferecendo nessas sessões principais de palestrantes a tradução do português para o inglês ou do inglês para o português. Deve haver aí um botão ao lado direito da sua tela do Zoom, escrito interpretação. Você pode clicar ali e selecionar a língua em que você precisar de assistência eventualmente. So we had to start here. I accidentally launched the seminar, the webinar before it was time for it to get started. So I believe that everybody feels at home right now and we're listening to our conversations and struggle with technology. But anyway, I would like to ask the leadership of our college and department to say a few proper welcoming words. So turn up the volume then to listen to our Dean, Scott Fritzen, who we thank for the presence here.
Well, thank you so much, Fabio, and welcome everybody to this annual symposium, which is a signature event for the College of International Studies and the department, because it captures a key aim that every great research university aspires to, and that is making our analysis accessible to a broader audience while addressing the most urgent, indeed, the most burning issues of our times. Nothing could speak more closely, more relevantly to that aim than this year's theme of the environment, human rights, and democracy in Bolsonaro's Brazil. Our speakers will have so much to say about this, but for now, suffice to say that this well-selected theme captures a fundamental insight that drives the ethos of our college, and I believe the work of probably everybody here, which is the reality of interconnectedness. Interconnectedness between the issues themselves, interconnectedness among countries, and interconnectedness in the solutions that ultimately have to come together to protect vulnerable people, fragile ecosystems, and increasingly fragile democracies, whether in Brazil, the United States, or beyond. I'd of course like to thank everybody here who has played a role in organizing today's events and the follow-up events on March 5th and March 12th, including, of course, our Center for Brazil Studies directors, Fabio and Michele, who are amazing colleagues in every respect. And most importantly, to thank our invited speakers, our panelists, and yes, our amazing artists who are gracing us here this morning with their presence. So without further ado, let me hand the floor back over to you, Fabio. Thank you all so much for being here, and I look forward to a productive discussion this morning. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dean Fritzen. Now I would like to invite the chair of our department, Dr. Eric Heinzle, to say a few words too.
Thank you, Fabio. Welcome everyone to the 2021 IAS Annual Symposium. I'm truly happy to be able to introduce and help kick off this very important event, which, as many of you know, has been a long time coming. As some of you know, these events were originally planned to take place last spring in Norman, in person, of course, but due to obvious developments, the event had to move to a remote format. But despite these challenges, our symposium committee has put together an incredibly impressive series of events to take place today and over the next couple of Fridays. So I hope to see many of you at these events in the coming weeks. I think it goes without saying that we owe a huge debt of gratitude to our symposium committee, which this year was led by our Brazil Studies faculty, Michele and Fabio. But really this was a team effort. So I want to thank all of the faculty and staff involved who helped make this very important event happen. I'm also very appreciative of our guest speakers, our visitors, and other participants in the symposium and workshops, both within and outside of OU. Welcome and thank you for coming. I would just conclude by saying a couple things that largely echo what Scott just mentioned. Basically, the idea that this year's symposium theme, which has to do, of course, with democracy, human rights, and the environment in Brazil, could not be more timely or important. Not only are these quite literally the burning issues of the day in Brazil, which is one of the most important countries in Latin America and the world, but these are truly issues of transnational concern. Obviously, what happens to the Amazon rainforest, for example, affects the world more broadly, but it is also true that many countries are facing similar challenges, including some of the world's oldest democracies, like here in the United States. So what we learn over the next few weeks about Brazil and the challenges being faced there, I think can be applied to many national and global contexts. And I encourage people to think broadly about these topics and how we can draw lessons from studying Brazil for overcoming these challenges more globally. So with that, I'll turn it back over to my colleagues and thank everyone for coming today. And I look forward to a lively and informative series of events. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Heinze. Now I would like everybody to give a big round of applause to my co-director, Dr. Michele Moraes, who will say a few words about the theme of our symposium and the discussions we start today.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So good morning to those in the US. Boa tarde para aqueles que nos acompanham do Brasil. I'm not sure if you're all seeing me here on the screen. It looks like I'm just seeing Fabio. Do you see me? Oh, you do? Okay, perfect. So it's a big pleasure to welcome all of you on behalf of the Center for Brazil Studies at the University of Oklahoma. My name, as it has been said here, is Michele Moraes de Sais Silva, and I am one of the co-directors of the Center for Brazil Studies. I'm also an assistant professor at the Department of International and Area Studies. So as Dr. Heinze said, it's been a long way. It's been almost 2 years since Dr. Fabio de Sais Silva and Dr. Emma Colvin and I began working on the conceptualization of the symposium. Since then, a lot has changed in world affairs, in our personal lives, and especially in Brazil. At a time when we first drafted the concept note for the symposium, the Amazon was literally in flames. Important human rights defenders were leaving the country due to life threats, and the military was increasingly occupying key positions in the Brazilian federal government. With a heavy heart, I need to tell you that those issues have not gone away. Our panelists over the coming 3 weeks will tell you that story in greater detail in its various facets. What has changed in Brazil, though, is the loss of 250,000 lives. Lives that were officially lost to COVID, but in reality, lost to mismanagement, to poor leadership, to fascism, to fake news. I stand here today showing off my privilege of having been vaccinated, while my father, a 65-year-old cancer patient, remains waiting for his vaccine with no indication of when this will happen. And Brazil has a universal free health system. Brazil has excellent scientists and excellent scientific institutions. And yet, the Brazil of 2021 is way behind when it comes to facing and overcoming this global pandemic. When I started teaching at the University of Oklahoma in 2017, I was often asked by students and colleagues, What happened to Brazil? Brazil had been on the rise for quite some time. The country had been a promising example of what good public policies could accomplish. It had been an inspiring example of solidarity in the global South. Unfortunately, and sadly, I no longer get asked those questions. No one asks what happened to Brazil. Our unfortunate and declining political and social situation is now naturalized and accepted internationally. We truly hope that along these next 3 weeks of presentations and discussions, we will no longer naturalize Brazil's current state of affairs. We will deeply analyze it, we will question it, and we will delve into the many layers of complexity that have always characterized Brazilian politics and society. We're not naive or presumptuous to think that our 3 days of symposium will yield solution to Brazil's burning issues. That is not up to us. That is up to the Brazilian people. What we can do as responsible and engaged academics is to use the power of research and science to illuminate and support societal choices. And we're thrilled to be part of this collective scholarly enterprise with all of you here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Moraes. I then wanted to ask my colleague, Tiago Botelho, to say a few words. He's a faculty member at the Federal University of Grande Dourados in the state of Mato Grosso do Sul in Brazil. And he also edits the Videre journal, which is partnering with us to get some of the outputs of the symposium published.
Boa tarde a todos e a todas desde o Brasil. Em nome do Dr. Scott Freising e Dr. Eric Heinz, cumprimento todos os membros deste espaço virtual de debate e desejo, enquanto brasileiro, que este seminário consiga ser um espaço democrático e humano de reflexão sobre um país que luta incansavelmente contra várias pedagogias cruéis que vão do governo Bolsonaro à Covid-19. Enquanto editor-chefe da revista Videre, periódico vinculado ao programa de mestrado em Fronteiras e Direitos Humanos da Universidade Federal da Grande Dourados, no estado de Mato Grosso do Sul, agradeço imensamente ao Dr. Fábio de Sais Silva e à doutora Michele de Sais Silva pelo convênio firmado entre a revista e o Centro de Estudos Brasileiros da Universidade de Oklahoma. Estes dois professores carregam aquilo que o Brasil tem de melhor, que é uma pedagogia coletivista, humana e plural. Vocês nos orgulham, não simplesmente por estarem nos Estados Unidos, mas por aí fixarem moradia e jamais esquecerem das riquezas brasileiras tidas como pobreza e a elite agrária deste país, que são nossas matas e os povos do campo, das águas e das florestas. É importante que saibam, aqui em forma de denúncia, mesmo porque está diretamente relacionado ao simpósio, que a Universidade Federal da Grande Dourados, onde sou coordenador do curso de Direito e editor-chefe da revista Videre, agora conveniada com o Centro de Estudos, vive uma intervenção do governo Bolsonaro. O reitor democraticamente eleito não foi nomeado, pelo simples fato de ser um defensor da democracia e dos direitos humanos. E no posto sentam amigos do presidente desrespeitando a autonomia universitária, preceito expresso na Constituição Federal deste país. Os dias por aqui não estão fáceis. Em meio ao anormal, que não tem nada de novo normal, as universidades e a ciência brasileira sofrem perseguições políticas, inclusive apoiada pelo sistema de justiça. Não podemos esquecer da traumática perseguição jurídica que viveu Luiz Carlos Cancellier, ex-reitor da Universidade Federal de Santa Catarina, que o levou ao suicídio E nesta semana, a Polícia Federal vergonhosamente encerrou o inquérito por falta de provas. O professor Cancelier foi mais uma vítima da política de morte implantada no Brasil. Em meio a tantos assaltos, nós, professores, seguimos acreditando no Brasil, mesmo que, em alguns momentos, nos faltem ar. A revista Videre é fruto dessa insistência de quando nos falta ar. Produzir pesquisa no Brasil tem se tornado cada dia mais difícil. No meio de uma pandemia, o governo Bolsonaro conseguiu equiparar o investimento em educação ao ano de 2015. Mesmo assim, desde 2017, a revista Vidre, com muito esforço, ganha protagonismo no fazer e publicizar ciência, tanto na esfera nacional quanto internacional. Hoje, a revista figura entre os 732 mais bem avaliados periódicos do Brasil, de um total de 2.325 na área jurídica. Na conjuntura regional, a revista consolida-se como a maior estratificação na área do direito, e no estado de Mato Grosso do Sul é a primeira. É neste contexto que a revista Videre se coloca no campo da ciência para discutir perspectivas contra-hegemônicas. O periódico do interior do Mato Grosso do Sul consegue comprovar com qualidade que a ciência, em especial a ciência jurídica, não é neutra e sequer homogênea, bem como que a sistematização do conhecimento jurídico precisa ser democratizada e seu filtro epistemológico de validação do saber urge reconhecer a pluralidade de vidas, cosmovisões, sexualidades e subjetividades. É chegado o tempo de democratizar a democracia. E a revista Videre se coloca neste lugar no atual cenário acadêmico brasileiro. Para a revista Videre, racismo, LGBTfobia e machismo não são ciências, mas crime. Fundamentalismo não é ciência, é crime. Recomendar remédio de verme para a Covid-19, como fez e faz Bolsonaro, não é ciência, é crime. Negar democracia não é ciência, é crime. Ciência está para a vida e não para a morte. O convênio firmado com o Centro de Estudos Brasileiros da Universidade de Oklahoma ajudará na internacionalização da luta pela ciência e democracia no Brasil. Como diz o poeta Manuel de Barros, quem anda em trilho é trem de ferro, liberdade caça jeito. Este convênio internacional entre as instituições é um jeito também de caçar formas de liberdade e democracia. Desejo um excelente e profícuo debate.
Thank you very much, Tiago, for your contribution here and for the partnership that you were more than willing to have with us to publicize some of the outputs from the symposium. I now have the greatest pleasure that I could have to announce here Cacá Nascimento, and ask her to, share with us some words or maybe musical notes for us to think about and feel inspired by as we open up this symposium. Cacá, você consegue isso?
Oi, gente, eu me chamo Cacá Nascimento. Queria dizer que é uma honra estar aqui nesse evento tão importante para o Brasil, não só para o Brasil, mas também para o mundo. É isso aí, vamos de música, vamos? Brasil chegou a vez de ouvir as Marias mães, Marielles Malê. ouvir as Marias Mães, Marielles Malê. Brasil, meu nego, deixa eu te contar a história que a história não conta, o avesso do mesmo lugar, na luta que a gente se encontra. Brasil, meu Deus, a mangueira chegou, com versos que o livro apagou. Desde 1500 tem mais invasão do que descobrimento. Tem sangue retinto pisado atrás do herói emoldurado. Mulheres, tamoios, mulatos, eu quero um país que não tá no retrato. Brasil, o teu nome é Dandará e a tua cara é de Cariri. Não veio do céu nem das mãos de Isabel a liberdade, é um dragão no mar de Aracati. Salve os caboclos de junho, quem foi de aço nos anos de chumbo. Brasil, chegou a vez de ouvir as Marias Mães, Marielles Malês. Mangueira, mangueira, tira a poeira dos porões ou abre alas pros teus heróis de barracões, dos Brasis que se faz um país de Recife a Melões. São verde rosas, multidões, mangueira, tira a poeira dos porões ou abre alas pros teus heróis de barracões, dos Brasis que se faz um país de Recife a Melões. Brasil, Brasil, Brasil. Obrigada.
Thank you so much. Obrigado, Kaká.
Muito obrigada.
So, thank you so much. There was, I guess, hardly a better way to start this event than by listening to Kaká, this young and talented Brazilian artist, and to this wonderful samba that she sang. Kaká is going to be performing here for us after we finish the keynote speech for half an hour. So hang on and enjoy. This is live on Facebook, live on YouTube, and I'm sure that there's a big audience for that's very appreciative of her work out there. It's going to enjoy this a lot. So this is a samba that's entitled Histórias para Ninar Gente Grande, which I poorly translate in my classes on Brazil studies as Lullaby for the Grown-Ups. And it's a samba that was adopted by Estação Primeira de Mangueira, one of the most traditional samba schools in Brazil, in their carnival parade of 2019. And Mangueira then invited Brazilians to approach their country's history from a new angle, the angle of the most dispossessed, the indigenous, the Blacks, the poor, whose voices and stories have been absent from textbooks and mainstream representations of Brazil. And by the way, the last time we had a chance to teach a study abroad course in Brazil, one thing that we did was to spend a whole afternoon with two of the songwriters of this samba and to hear directly from them about the process by which this samba lyric was created. And I really hope that we will have a chance to resume these kinds of activities soon and give our students these opportunities. This call that was made by Mangueira is certainly not just for Brazilians. Many people and organizations outside of Brazil, particularly in the United States, have a major role in producing or reproducing many of the frames with which Brazil is interpreted, oftentimes even by Brazilians. This symposium and all that we have done at our Center for Brazil Studies here at OU grows out of the recognition of the role that we play in the responsibility that we have as Brazilianists, and which gets translated into two features of this symposium and our work in general. The first is collaboration, collaboration across disciplines and areas of knowledge. Our center and the symposium as well gathers scholars and students from different areas of knowledge under the understanding that all these perspectives are important to shed light on the current dilemmas of Brazil and their effects globally. Collaboration with other Brazil centers and programs in the US. And here I'm really thrilled to see that we have discussants from San Diego State University, the University of Arizona, which is a co-sponsor to this event, the University of Michigan, the University of Wisconsin, and Rutgers University. And most importantly, collaboration with Brazil and Brazilians, as reflected in the exchange programs that we have at the center, that we use to bring students, to bring interns. Maybe one day we'll bring Kaká to spend a semester here with us. How about that, Kaká? And many partnerships that we are developing with Brazilian institutions, including the one that Tiago indicated. And the second feature of this event and of our work in general is solidarity. We see that, we understand that there's no purpose to do any of what we are doing if it is not to help build a better country and to improve the relations between the United States and Brazil. So thank you so much for all of you who are part of this project and who have registered to the symposium. And I really hope that we can continue to work together in some capacity and that we will continue to have these conversations and develop projects. Before we move on to our keynote, I wanted to remind everybody that this event that we are starting today is a culmination of almost 2 years of hard and persistent work on the part of the faculty and staff of our center, department, and college. Since the fall of 2019, we contacted speakers, issued a call for papers, read and select abstracts. I believe we had received, I think, over 60 or 65 proposals, reviewed and gave feedback to first drafts, bought tickets to speakers, authors, and collaborators, reserved hotels and meeting rooms on our campus, and then we had to cancel everything and start it over because of COVID. So we couldn't really begin this without thanking all of those who were involved in this process and who gave their best so that we could make this a reality, virtual, but reality. So thanks, Dr. Emma Coven, for working with us on the symposium committee. Thanks, Stephanie Sager and Beth Young, for your incredible support with logistics. Thank you, Bruno Lobato, for your interpretation. Thank you, Lara Souza, Juliana Teixeira, and Karin Leopoldino for helping with the selection of the papers, especially on the environmental front. Thank you, Gant Robertson, Cricket Kaya, and Michaela Shaman. And before them, Aline Rocha and Eduardo Campbell, who have interned at our center and as interns have helped with a little bit of everything. That's the fate of interns, right? So thank you all for your attention and for being with us today. And without further ado, I would like to ask my friend Eloy Terena to give his presentation, his keynote speech, and I invite all of you to watch it and to interact with him.